Ryan, how are you?
Keeping good, man. How are you keeping?
Very good, very good. So 8th of December, have you got your Christmas shopping done as yet?
Do you know what I do? There's
Yeah.
always one or two that just grabs you and say, "Oh, damn, forgot about that." But I've two books. I've one. I won't say who it is, but I've one that I'm seriously struggling with. And yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. It's funny. I was only thinking about it in the countdown just there. So I'll have to get
Right.
a Christmas gift. How are you getting on with yours?
Good, yeah, no, I got a good few out of the way there last week. Was
Yeah.
delighted with myself. So a few bits and pieces still to get, but I've got a few done, which is unlike me, a bit ahead of myself. So yeah, I'm happy enough with
Right.
that.
And maybe I need to put that into my 2022 planner. Get
Ah,
Christmas shopping in November.
that's it.
Play the long game.
How was your week this week?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Busy. I went away for a few days. So that was one of my big ones. The R&R was up in Cabra Castle, so that was lovely. Was that was this week, wasn't it?
That was last
It
week.
was last week. My God, since yes, my
Very
God,
busy week.
getting confused. The thing is really kicking in. Yeah, so it was actually, but it was catching up from that. So do you know what it
Yeah,
was actually, Brian? I was actually just back from Cabra Castle on the morning when we
that's
had
right. You
that
came back.
call.
Yeah, yeah, that
That's
very
what it
day.
was, yeah. So it was just really trying to squeeze that in. Like the R&R was great and I needed it, but like there's always a trade-off with it, and I'm sort of catching up on that as well. So I have a big couple of weeks ahead of me, huge week ahead of me actually with me Viva for so
Yeah.
I suppose 7 years of academic work all culminating in a 3 hour interview next Friday week. So that should be interesting. But yeah, it's gone good. It's funny, do you know, I remember a couple of weeks ago I said I felt a sense of calm despite the madness going around me. And I was driving to the office today and I felt that sense of calm again. So I think that's
Mhm.
always a good sign. So
Nice one, yeah.
calm within the storm, which is
Yeah,
interesting considering the last
the
few
day
days.
the day that's in it, yeah.
Yeah.
Come here, but that is the trade-off though, isn't it? Being
Yeah.
self-employed, working for yourself. If you take time off, it's just unfortunately it's time where nobody is working on your business
This
and
is it.
you have to catch up on it when you come back.
Yeah, the wheels stop turning. They don't keep on
Mm.
turning while you're off on a holiday. It's an
And
interesting.
you can outsource and stuff like that as you
Yeah,
grow, but pretty much it's in the early days certainly, or when you're very small, it's your thing, it's your business. You keep things moving.
yeah, very true.
Mhm.
As for the three things, so
Mm.
I hit the mark this week as well, actually, which was interesting. So I got one of my Leo quotes over the line completely. That's in. I'm just waiting on the response from that.
Mhm.
So that was a really nice box tick, to get that done. I read one of my books, so that was one of the things that I want to do around my marketing strategy. I read 90% of it, and I was going to say to myself, right, that's like a 2.9 out of 3 this week. But you know, when you get to a certain stage of a
Round
book,
it up.
you say, I've gotten everything. I've gotten everything I needed from that book.
Mhm.
And it's actually a better idea. Like some books I've stopped after. Like I used to read a book and continue reading it, even though I wasn't getting much of it because I felt I had to tick that box and finish it.
Yeah.
So I got what I needed out of it. So that was great. Got that over the line, started another book. So I'm doing a lot of reading around real quadrant 2 work, reading around brand and all that kind of stuff as
Mhm.
well. And then I got a good chunk of my planning done. I got everything around the planning that I wanted to get done, and then I wanted to have it ready for this call. And I'm going to do a bit more planning now next week as well,
Yeah.
because it's actually again it's more quadrant 2 work. It's real. It's complex. It's a lot of areas moving, and it's just it's
Mhm.
flexible. Yeah,
Nice one. Yeah, great work.
well, 2.9. We'll round it up to 3. Yeah.
Good stuff.
How did you get on yourself?
Yeah, okay. Like not as I didn't take everything like you did, but I had a couple of big ticket items there. At least they were hanging around for a while. So
Oh,
I got my
that's it.
communications plan for the year, the remainder of the year. So I got that done. Happy with that, and I've
Brilliant.
started that. Or I just tidying things up for the remainder of the year. I wanted to a deep brainstorming exercise for the planning, and then to actually document the plan for 2022. So I have started both of those, but I'd only give myself, like I'd say, a quarter out of one for each of those. So I'm giving myself 1.5 out of 3 for the week. But you know what? I'm okay about that because those last two have been hanging around for a while.
Yeah.
And sometimes for me, actually, it's almost getting started on something. Breaking the back on it is almost half the work. And now that I have it, I have kind of like a template that I'm working around, that I'm working towards, and I know what I want to do. I actually, even though I've only given myself a quarter there, I feel like I'm halfway there. Like even though I
Yeah.
still need to do a lot of the planning, I just feel like I've made a really good start on it. So I'm happy enough, and I will finish them off this week.
Yeah, that's so true. And you know, there's a lot of science backs that up as well. I remember coming across Mel Robbins' 5-4-3-2-1 rule. It's like 5-4-3-2-1 go. And it was the science that sort of helps you, stops you from procrastinating. But when I looked into the science behind that as well, what I showed, there's a thing in chemistry, it's actually called activation energy. And it takes you so much energy with our biology as well to get movement, to actually start something. But once we start something, and it's how our brain chemistry works and it's how our biology works, it takes all of this energy to get over the first hurdle, and then momentum takes care of the rest. So I hear exactly what you're saying there, and I feel like I've done that myself with the planning. I've gotten the dog's work done, and now it's just started the enjoyable parts. Now it's filling in the gaps.
Yeah. How's your Irish? There's a great Irish saying, do you know, "Tu sma la na hibre"? You come across that?
No, my Irish is horrific.
Just means a good start is half the job.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Give us the Irish of that again.
So "tu sma la na hibre." A good start is half the work.
I remember that. I love that. It's a lovely proverb, actually, because it's so true and it's backed up by science. I love the proverbs that are backed up by science, but when they came out before the science was even around, it's great.
Yeah. And you know, it's for me, like I'm terrible. Like I'd be not quite procrastinating, but I'd be looking around for ages for the proper framework or template or spreadsheet or whatever it was for my plan. Like that was what was holding me up for a lot of it. And it did take a long time to find. I wouldn't say it's perfect what I found, but I've started pretty much my own, and I'm working towards it. So you know, I've got that done now, and now it's the fun part, like you said, actually the planning, filling in some numbers, some stats, some whatever else then as well for the future, for the plan.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds keen. That sounds great. Do you want to jump off and discuss your experiences with it?
Yeah, so I'll tell you how I've started. So I've kind of, with the templates I found, it was kind of based around SMART goals for the year. So that specific, measurable, is it actionable, realistic, and time bound as well. So I'm trying to kind of fill those in for each of my goals. And for now, and I need to do a little bit more on this, but I've kind of broken them into two sections so far. One is the products and services that I currently have, and the other is, let's say, a bit like you, like what do I want to achieve? What do I want to create next year? There's number two, and actually there's a third one then as well. It's let's say the current community, so growing the community just in terms of numbers. Like, let's say I've even got one down for the mailing list. I'm going to start current numbers in the mailing list. What's my target for Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4? Same with the private LinkedIn community, that kind of thing. And I'm going to do the same then in terms of sales for, let's say, each of the courses that I have. But and once I get those numbers in, then I want to kind of go back and say, right, Q1 is a big year for, let's say, this course. So that means I'm going to need to do a lot of marketing around that, promotion around that. So I'm going to have a marketing kind of hanging off that and say, well, what am I going to do in that quarter? It's going to be a webinar to promote that. There's going to be some kind of a launch. There's going to be a social media campaign to support it then as well. Am I going to bring in a guest to talk about a related subject? That kind of idea. So that's how I've started. That's kind of the approach I've been taking.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's very similar to me own, Brian, as well. I forgot about the SMART thing. I'm gonna actually employ that into the thing. It's like I do that to an extent, but I don't have that framework, and I do love that framework. So I'm gonna backtrack on that and have a look at that as well. But the same yourself, I done a huge brainstorm. I took all of my old plans. I took all of what I had on the notice board. I sat down with me. With Pam, who was somebody that I outsourced a lot of my work with. She's sort of a virtual assistant that helps me with stuff. And we just brainstormed everything. Got insights off her as well. I like bouncing ideas off people as well, and just put everything on a page. So it was a big brainstorm of everything I can do. Very obviously, I couldn't get everything done in 2022. So that was the very, very obvious thing for me at the start when I had it all down. So there was two things there. It was either prioritize, to say no to some things, or else maybe it's just not a 2022 planner. So I actually created a 2023 overflow. So things that are not high priority are just too big a deal, too big to get into this year. On top of the other things, they're going to start to overflow into 2023. So I'm actually still going through that process because I sort of got deep into that process as well. So I was prioritizing things, and I love to do things on a scale of 1 to 10. So I say, right, how important is that on a 1 to 10? And then it was like, once you get into that, then you say, right, so prioritize in terms of money. How much money will it bring to the company? Prioritize in terms of value. How much value will it bring to the company? And then there's the intrinsic sort of motivators as well. So something that's happened with me, and it's going to be a big part of my goals for next week, is I'm doing this work in a secondary school in Tallaght. And we're going to be working with young kids who at-risk kind of kids. We're going to take a small number of them, and we're creating this mentorship program. So this was something that wasn't in my plan, and it looks like it's going to take up a hell of a lot of time. It's not going to bring much, if any, money into the company, but it's just something that's really intrinsically important. I can feel my passion rising through it, and I think I could really do good work. So it's really prioritizing things good for the business and good intrinsically. So the pro bono work, or whatever way I want to say that. So another thing that I'm going to do. So I've prioritized all that at the moment, and I'm sort of in the process now of right, what can I outsource? And what do I have to do myself? Because a lot of this stuff is interactive for me, because next year I want to bring someone on board, whether part-time or full-time, as part of the company. So training them is going to be a big impact. But once I train them, I can delegate a lot of that work. So I'm really trying to find out areas that I'm going to be able to outsource or delegate to a new employee as well. So what I found is, with this plan, it's really giving me a deep insight into the complexity of what 22 is going to be like, how many moving parts are going to be in that as well. So although I haven't got as much clarity as I wanted, it's really shining a light on how complex it's going to be. So that's basically where I am at the moment. And one thing I'm thinking of as well, it's a great principle. I'm always thinking of mental models, and I speak about them often. It's really like, think about the 80-20 principle as well. For anyone else out there that's doing that, like, what 20% gives you. So the Pareto principle basically states that 20% of your resources give you 20% of your gain. So a better way of putting it, let's say 20% of your customers might give you 20% of your profits, or
80% of
your profits. 20% of your of things in your life give you 80% of your happiness. 20% of problematic things in your life probably give you 80% of your pain. So a nice way of using the 80-20 analysis, and this is something I'm gonna do with the priority systems as well, is say, right, what is the 20% that is going to give me the 80% of the gain in terms of intrinsic value, like the pro bono work that I'm going to be doing with the schools, in terms of the financial value in that as well. So it's just another way of really looking at the models as well. So I'm going to have to get deep on this. And I think what I did realize from this is that it's probably going to carry on over the Christmas. So I'm going to be working right up, and probably a little bit over Christmas, because I'm taking a break in January, early January. So it's it's been a fascinating process so far.
I think you're right. Yeah, like I might have like the skeleton of what I want to do done this week or within the next week, but I'm going to be looking at this, working on this over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Just diving deeper, maturing it that little bit. There's quite a bit to it, but it's a really nice exercise, and I'm glad we started it. I need to go deeper on the brainstorm. Like, I have done a little, but I need to do that quite a bit more. Get to the kind of level that you're getting at there. But we're on the same path there, and I love the way you're going about it. Have you got time? You've prioritized. You're talking about values then as well. Are you getting really kind of strategic or project management about it by putting the time around it? Saying,
yes, so
that is a priority 10. This has to be done by the 31st of March 2022. You're doing that?
Yeah, so that's going to come after the event. So I'm going to have to cut a lot of weight, and so some things are just going to have to go. End of story. They are just going to have to go. And once I have that, so I loosely in the back of my head, like, I want to have my podcast up and running by April. I want to have my first big course. So I'm going to do a course on brain, reversing the age of your brain. I want to have that done by March. And a key component of that is, and I'm being actually quite flexible, and I'd love to have it done in February, but I'm trying to be realistic and saying I'm going to have it done in March. So and that's sort of from a financial financial perspective to get the money going as well. So I definitely have dates, and then more for the things that are later on in the year, I sort of, they're looser dates like quadrant 3, quadrant 4 of the year, with the knowledge that things are gonna change. Like, you can have the best plan in the world, and this is something I wanted to ask yourself, Brian, as well. It's like a trade-off. Like, you could spend a month doing a plan where, like, how, like that like you could put 100 hours into plan in 2022, whereas that could be time spent like on other good things. So it's like, again, it's always a trade-off with these things as well. How deep do you actually go to get to the bones of what you need, just to get, like, done is better than perfect. That's a thing I've heard many times. Like, so getting it done is better than perfect. So getting the balance of going to a certain depth on it.
True. Yeah. How do you do that? Well, you'll often hear like a business plan, creating a business plan. A business plan is the greatest work of fiction that'll ever be written.
Yeah,
that's what everybody. And if I look back on my old business plans when I created the company first, I actually must have a look at them to have a laugh, because I don't think there's one thing in there that I'm doing now. There really isn't. So, having said all of that, it is a really useful exercise to do, to really stop and think. Otherwise, you're just flying into the wind. You don't know where you're going exactly. So you need a certain level of it. And I think if it's not taking up, it's not ruining your Christmas, and it's not taking over other priority areas, I think it's okay to keep working on it, to keep just maturing it that little bit over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and you know what I find as well? It's a guidance system, and it actually spawns ideas. Like, it's the same with the business plan. I was doing a business plan. I'm still have to do that, finish that business plan for a grant. But what I found is this business plan is actually really powerful for giving me a strategy for the business. So it's not about the plan. So I think planning for 22, it's not just about the plan. It's about idea generation. It's about shining awareness on certain things. It's about giving you problem solving stuff as well. There's lots of elements to it. And then it sort of brought me as well, like, we have the macro plan, the yearly plan, then you might have a 10-year plan. But then what's your daily plan? What's your weekly plan going to look like as well? And there's something that I really want to do next year. And I've started thinking loosely on Monday is going to be my creation day, getting my newsletter out, creating the video, doing a bit of writing, doing a bit of blogging. And Friday is going to be like my white space day. That's the day when I can put things in there. I'm going to keep that as free as I can. Lots of white space, but it's not a day off. That's my day for Q2. I'm going to read books. I'm going to read blogs. I'm going to learn about ideas. Now, if stuff flows into that for 2 or 3 hours and I have to put fires out on a Friday, that's okay, because I have that white space there. So I'm going to be trying to get in the core of my other work done on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So that's an optimistic plan for next year as well, of what my weeks are going to look like.
It's nice to have that idea. Like, stuff will seep in, especially when you got a podcast. You're kind of working around other people's schedules and timelines, unfortunately. So stuff will creep in there. But it's nice to have that intention anyway, and I do like that idea. It's important to have. I need to get away from that reactive space as well, because that's if I don't control it, I am reacting all week. And nice problem to have. Lots of stuff coming in, but there's zero creativity happening. I'm forcing myself to be creative at the moment with the planning, and it's really helping already. I don't think there's anything you can write down related to your business or your health or an application for something. I've been doing quite a few for Parkit. Writing stuff down on paper just helps. It helps you think clearer. When you see it on paper, you might want to change it up. You might want to mix it up a little bit. Getting it down on paper, a bit like journaling, it just helps. It helps clarify things.
Yeah, it really does. And you know what as well, Brian, it's telling someone about it as well. And I think that's a very powerful thing for what myself and yourself do as well. Like, I was we're doing the work, and then we're talking about it as well. And when you try to tell somebody about what you're doing, like when you try to teach, because it's a form of teaching, I'm trying to communicate something to you, what I'm doing, and whoever's listening, you're trying to teach in a way of what you're doing. And if there's any holes in what you're in your thinking, they come to the fore straight away. So it can be really powerful. That can be really powerful as well.
And especially if you share it with somebody else, get it in front of someone else, get them to look through it. They'll find the holes very quickly.
Yeah, Yeah, it's like the pre-run. I done a pre-run for me Viva there last week. There was holes all over the place, and
Was there?
I've restructured that program, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
do it to my partner on Thursday. I'm gonna say, here, listen to this for 40 minutes. Gonna bore the hell over with structural equation modeling and mediation analysis. But it's important.
Of
It's
course
like
it is.
I
Even
just for
speaking in
me,
front of somebody else is important.
to go through that process just to prep for the
Yeah.
Friday. Yeah,
There's something you mentioned there that just I thought about. So you were talking about the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, and I'm a fan of that. Here's what I found. You've got an online. You're doing a new course. You've got that's one of your priorities for next year.
mental models. Yeah,
Mental models course, right? What I find with having created a few courses before, and you've got one up for us already in the Workwell Institute, and more to come, hopefully. What I've found with the course creation is you can probably apply the Pareto principle here. 20%, I'd say, is actually creating the course. 80% then is you need to market that course,
yeah.
promote the course, talk about the course, get people interested in the course. Does that make sense? Does it, using the 80-20 principle in that way?
Yeah, it does. So it's like what I would say is that 80% of your gains in terms of money coming into your business will probably come from the 20% of the marketing that you do. Yeah, it really is. Or even more so. So let's say if you've done 10 different courses, you will probably find that 80% of the profits will probably come from 20% of those two of them courses, or two or
Yeah,
three of those courses as well.
yeah,
So it's hard to do it from the marketing perspective. What I would say is if you had a marketing strategy, let's say a multifaceted marketing strategy with lots of different elements, you would probably find that 20% of that marketing strategy will be the 80% that really worked well.
yeah,
So the idea around the Pareto principle is to double down on what actually works.
yeah.
So if you find that you practice gratitude, meditation, exercise, sleep, and you practice all these tools, but two of them, 2 out of 10 make you feel brilliant, focus on them. They are the things that work. So that's what the Pareto principle is really about. But the mental models is just great as well, Brian. Like another thing that just jumped out at me there, like in terms of creating a plan, like there's a great thing in a mental model called second order effects, and it's simply what is the effect of the effect. And we think about this all the time. Like if I put petrol in my car, the effect is the car will run. If I don't, the car won't go. That's the effect of the effect. But when you think about it deliberately in terms of, right, if I do this, what will happen to X? If I do A, what will happen with B? And what if B happens, what will happen with C? And if C happens, what will happen with D? Now you can become over analytical as like analysis paralysis kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a trade-off of how far do you actually go. But to use that mental model to think about how things will actually go, how things will actually run through. And you can even do a thought experiment on that as well. Visualize it in my head. Well, if I do that, that's what that will look like. And it just shines a light on different thinking tools to actually think about different problems that you have. And the more tools you have at your disposal, the more clearly you'll see.
I suppose what I was thinking of, so the Pareto principle probably isn't right for this example, but when you're doing your planning now for 2022 and you've got the mental models course in there, I'd say, you're talking maybe 10% or 20% of your effort, your time effort will be on the creation of that course. To actually get people to sign up to the course, I think it's another 80%, whatever you've allocated for creation, add
Yeah.
another 80, 90% even of time to promote it, to talk about it, to get it out there. So that'll go on for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, it would nearly be. So in terms of that, it's like, yeah, you need to, like, people think, like when you write a book, when you create a course,
Yeah,
if you don't tell anyone about that, nobody is gonna know. So
exactly.
like the marketing is bloody everything when you think about it. It
Yeah,
could be up to 80, 90%, like at the end of the day. Like in marketing is I love Seth Godin's the definition of marketing. It's influencing people to change with empathy, and that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get them to change, to buy something, or to do something your way to a certain extent, but it's with empathy. So if you're not actually just trying to be a silver-tongued salesman selling something that you don't actually believe in, that can be a problem. But it's all about the marketing. It really is.
yeah, and that's why the third, like, I'm getting setting the targets in terms of services. I'm setting the targets in terms of my, the community and the numbers in the community. But underpinning all of that is how am I going to be talking about this? How am I going to be promoting it and marketing it? I haven't got to that yet, but I'm calling it out that I'm going to need to spend a lot of time on this, doing this, and I'm going to try and plan out how is this going to look like, even in terms of what webinars, podcast guests, this kind of idea.
Funny you say that as well, Brian. As much as I'm really looking forward to creating a podcast, one of the main reasons for the podcast is going to be creating a funnel to actually sell courses and stuff like that as well. And I think when I think of the creation day, like the newsletter, the blogs, the videos, it's all about the work that you do, and you're letting people know this is what you do, to let them know about your brand. And at the end of the day, it's that macro sort of marketing. But then there's that more micro marketing as well, where you need to look at the marketing for specific courses. And that's somewhere where I need to spend a little bit more time, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, in the new year, we'll do one of these dedicated to podcasting. I'll fill you in on how I got set up and all that stuff.
Definitely, man. Definitely. Do you know what as well? I'm very lucky. Pam is my virtual assistant. I've been working with her a while, so she's a legend with all that kind of stuff as well. So yeah, I can massively. The reason why I can actually do a podcast next year is because I know people like yourself, and I know Pam is going to be able to do a lot of the background stuff for me as well. So that outsourcing stuff is that wouldn't even be on my list otherwise.
Yeah, brilliant. Listen, what are your goals? What are the targets now for next week?
Next week, so numero uno is my Viva prep. So I'll be pretty much every spare minute is going to be looking at videos. I'll be going into the philosophy, the theory. I've read my thesis last week. I'll be reading it again. More prep work. So I'm just trying to get as involved as I can to prep for that three hour interview, which will hopefully get me over the line for the PhD. So that's the big one. Mm-hmm. Another one is the plan for the thing that I'm doing in Tala. It's around with young kids, at-risk kids. So I'm going to be creating a plan for what that looks like for a meeting that I have on the 22nd, and we're hoping to launch that in February. So really, really excited about that. Just a loose plan around it. That shouldn't take me too long. And then a big one for this week as well is networking. It's quadrant 2 work. So I'm going for a lovely lunch with one of my mentors today. I'm going for another lunch on Friday as well. They're usually business, lunchy kind of meetings, and it actually interacts with a lot of stuff I do. So it's networking stuff, but real quadrant 2 stuff. So a big aspect of the next week is actually networking, and it's a bit of R&R in the mix of that as well, because I'm really looking forward to it. So it's a double whammy there.
Nice one. That sounds like a class week, a busy and class week lined up. Yeah.
How are you guys? What's the week looking like for yourself?
Yeah. So the 3 targets, right? Number 1, I've got my final webinar of the year, just lining that up. We've got Chris Flack from Unplug coming on. We're going to talk about the right to disconnect. Nice. We might even talk about the right to disconnect over the festive period, which I'm looking forward to chatting with Chris about.
Unplug,
That's next Tuesday. I'm going to, I need to deep down that brainstorm and the plan for 2022. Just really bottom that out in the next week or so. And then finally, when it's the boring stuff, I'm going to close out all the open invoices, go around and knock on a few doors and see if anyone's at home before Christmas.
Yeah, have you got the baseball bat, yeah?
So that's they're my 3 for this week.
Yeah, super stuff, man.
And here, listen, next week, I think we're going to, speaking of planning for 2022, let's dedicate the half hour to actually planning for the accountability habit for 2022. What can we improve upon? What can we do better? What can we do differently?
Yeah, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and what it's going to look like in the future. Yeah, really looking forward to that. And that'll be a sort of a live thing. We don't really know what's happening, so we
no idea.
Look forward with that. Yeah, that'd be interesting. Cheers, man.
Listen, Brian, have a great week. Enjoy that lunch.
Will indeed. Have a good one. See you later.
See you now.